much bigger mess of stuff we get now. Yeah, so. But yeah, enjoy. Hopefully your daughter gets to play with it. Yeah. I mean, does this have audio?
What was that?
I don't know if this video has audio.
Oh, is it a piece of
Exactly. Yeah. Whoopsie. Alright. There we go. Oh, you guys are gonna skip it? Yep.
We considered it.
I knew it was R.I.P. Levi when he goes, not to steal your thunder.
What steals my thunder?
That was great. That was excellent.
No way. I think I should have that.
Yeah, that was really, really good.
Charlotte. Oh my God.
Not bad.
This one, you're showing this?
We got a good amount of we got a good amount of time to kind of play with.
You gotta open it.
What was that?
You wanna open this or yeah?
I think we should open with this.
It's a good video. That's what people are saying. I don't know. Many people are going to say it.
Let's try to run down the whole thing.
It is on my product. Jeremy, do you want me to
Do you want us to take pictures of me?
Oh yeah.
I was in this pretty
Okay, that was awesome.
class.
Neither of these.
Did you pass?
Yeah.
No.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Whalen. Welcome to the Minecraft.
Oh.
What is he doing?
Welcome you.
Why did you do this?
No, we're gonna use that for the rest.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here.
You're going to get an ingredient?
Yeah.
What graphics? Level of the production value.
So what we can do is
Oh, that's how you see it.
Absolutely.
Thanks much.
Sure.
I think by your part will leave.
What?
Your part is over if it's not by.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it is 3:15, 3:16. We're going to get started. Welcome. This session is about level. I think it's called Level Up Your Graphics. What we're going to be talking about. My name is Jeremy Whalen. I'm the technology department chair at Northampton High School. With me is Shiloh Hammerland, our senior news producer. So he'll himself in a second. And what we're going to look at today is one, the philosophy of why we use graphic design and graphic elements, what they can do for our productions, and most importantly, how we can easily integrate them into some of the projects that we're using in both a very kind of primitive way, just a really easy, simple way, as well as integrated into some of the software that we've been using. I'll show you some tips and tricks. So, without further ado, we kind of wanted to start with this. This is kind of the high watermark of what our students are capable of doing with some of the resources of graphics. If you've been in other sessions, our students have talked about what we call the cold open. The cold open is a 2 to 3 minute skit that is kind of relevant to something that has happened in either pop culture or in politics or something within the community. And so this one was created when Squid Game just had come out and there was a kind of craze about it. It happened actually to coincide with our pep rally, and so there's two elements combining: our pep rally and that kind of Squid Game, a Squid Game version of our pep rally in a kind of amusing fashion here. And so, like I said, this is the high water mark. This is a student that has been gradually accumulating the skills that we're going to start today, and some of the resources that we're going to start today. But you can see that when you really break it down and we go kind of through that 4 minutes of movie, there's little pieces of graphics that were integrated in different kind of nuanced ways that when you bring it all together, really elevates the production quality and the value of what's going on. It also is a really great way to kind of get into more of the professional aspects as you accumulate that knowledge. So, let's start with some introductions. My name is Jerry Whalen, like I said, I'm department chair of the technology department. I'm also a doctoral student in the mathematics, science, and learning technologies College of Ed at UMass Amherst. And
I am Shiloh Hammerlin, and I'm the senior news editor for Transcript, which is our weekly news broadcast at NHS that you've probably heard about already. I'm also a senior at Northern High School.
And what typically goes into kind of senior news editor?
So most of my responsibilities revolve around like the different technicalities that go into producing the transcript. Whether it be like teaching our producers camera skills, editing skills, making sure that everything is all done and tidy for when we post our broadcast ultimately on Fridays every week. So that's the majority of what I do.
So, let's just start with the fundamentals. What is graphic design and the graphics that we're going to be talking about? So, the kind of definition that you would find in Merriam-Webster would be the art or skill of combining text and pictures in advertisements, magazines, or books. Something along the line of accumulating all of these resources in a visual way. The amended version that I teach my students is that graphic design is a language. And just like with any language, in order to be proficient at it, there's certain structures and protocols that you kind of need to analyze and kind of communicate. Also, there are ways in which you learn a language that are informal and also formal. So you have to combine these kind of tactics of experiential knowledge, of experimenting with different things, with other ways that you can kind of take shortcuts and maybe not create everything from scratch, because it can be a very daunting process as this. So graphic design, when we're using this graphic design stuff, we're going to accumulate this knowledge much like a language. And what are we doing with these graphics, and what are we doing with video and visuals? We're communicating, we're expressing certain things that we would like to communicate. And why does it matter? So the first reason is, and we're gonna watch this little video I made for my faculty fantasy football league. But the first thing is identification. We talked in a couple of different sessions about kind of that branding and identity. There's no better way to establish a consistency in your branding than immediate visual understanding of what your brand is. And we do that through not only the creation of graphics, but the consistent and frequent use of those graphics. And we're able to have everybody on board understand what those graphics are as well. Instruction. So, like I said, it's the identification component is very important. It's getting all of those materials. But if your producers at your community media center don't know that there is a slate at the end or the beginning, then they won't use it. If they don't know how to integrate a graphic or lower thirds, you can have the best lower thirds or graphics in the world, but without that kind of understanding the educational component, then you're kind of got to be stuck at square one. And again, it just reinforces that auditory and visual aspects. And then, why do we use graphics? As you can see with the example that we showed, it goes beyond just immediate brand recognition. It really is a psychological practice of elevating the professionalism of what is going on. And also, when it comes to journalism, as we can see, it sometimes can work to the detriment of society. The elevated graphics means elevated production and sometimes is equated with elevated credibility. And so having this in mind, when I show, for instance, a member of the community the work that the students do, and we have these kind of graphic elements and everything, they're really impressed because we're taking all of these things into consideration, and it's something that is typically likened with a professional production. I argue that all the things that we are doing is professional production. We want to aim for that. And so having those high expectations, it builds that professionalism and that credibility. So let's see how some of this kind of interplays. We saw the kind of high water mark. This is stuff that we're going to kind of look at today. Very simple graphics, just something that comes in, little lower third, little graphic in the beginning, and then a little animation. So just to give you a little context, we have a faculty fantasy football league. There was a commissioner one of the teachers who was found out to be colluding. So I took my class and we did a very quick press conference. But you'll see that the actual video is very simple. It was just a shot with a whole bunch of kids with microphones in their face. But with the added elements that I downloaded from a repository that we use, and some of the graphics packages that we've integrated into, we use Premiere Pro, very quickly I was able to throw this together. This was within I think an hour and a half to 2 hours to put everything together. I think it's because it's in stereo, so you can't hear it. But what you'll see is just a couple of. What was that?
Oh yeah, just slide on your computer.
Oh. It's okay. You can see the graphics. So we have a couple of different elements. This breaking news graphic that comes in, the live graphic at the top, the lower third that comes in. These graphics right here. Again, it looks really daunting. It looks like I put a lot of effort into this. But after you start peeling back the layers and knowing where to look and knowing kind of where your workflow is, it becomes a lot more, it starts to make a lot more sense. Yeah. So, just a little primer on using graphics. This is, I'm going to share this resource after too. It's a really excellent online course that I take, that I do a unit on with my students. It's free. There's videos that show exactly what's going on. The videos in and of themselves are an excellent example of utilizing graphics in a great way. But when we utilize graphics, we want to think about these principles when we're actually creating. So the first one is proximity. Proximity is the visual space that shows that shows the relationship between subjects. So if you're doing a lower third, for instance, you would have the name and what their title is. You can see, can you read web designer? You're going to clump those together, and that's going to show its proximity, right? So it's not going to. It's also where we position that inside of our element. So grouping things together, putting things in kind of appropriate places is really important. In regards to that as well, white space and negative space, so that space between content is going to add a separation as well. So again, just some fundamentals of graphic design. Alignment, left, and traditionally we align things on the left, but there's certain times where we think about alignment in center. Again, one of those things that if you have Microsoft Word, you're kind of familiar with, but once you start adding a little bit of the complexities of video and things, sometimes we tend to forget this. Contrast is probably the one that I see utilized wrong the most, and it's because when you have certain branding kits, say for instance at Northampton Open Media, we used to have a light blue icon, but we only had that light blue icon. We didn't actually think about when that light blue icon was on a light blue with a light blue background when we had our cyclorama. So when you're thinking about your graphic elements, you're also thinking about how they interact with the frame and with what you're shooting. So what that means is just not one color, not one kind of color palette. You might have different lights and darks of all of the kind of branding and graphics that you have. Hierarchy, just like we have grouping of things, the larger or smaller those things are going to be is going to be important. This is going to come into play when you have again your lower thirds or some sort of icons. If you make them too big, it's going to overtake what's actually going on in your visuals. While at the same time you kind of want to drive the viewer's attention to different things. When we watched that video, when that breaking news came across the screen, that interrupts whatever we're thinking, or whatever is being said by the individual. So we have to think about the opportune times in which we're going to use graphics as well. So there's hierarchy in size, but there's also hierarchy in the timing in which we bring in graphics. It is important to think about while you're creating things. And then repetition. If you want to reinforce your graphics and you want to reinforce that branding and identity, you're going to repeat these and you're going to use the same colors, for instance. You're going to have that immediate recognition. There's a reason why when you see the colors red and yellow, you think about McDonald's. They want you to think about McDonald's. And if we can do that in a non-nefarious way with our productions, with our community media centers, or with the graphics that we create for our programs, then we're going to be able to kind of create that relationship with the viewer that have that immediate recognition. Okay, so a lot of you were in the other sessions about camp, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to hand it off to Shiloh to show how we actually put this into practice in our classroom and the things that we have to think about and recognize. Our classroom operates in a very similar way to community television stations. I used to actually work as the project coordinator at Northampton Open Media, and so a lot of the tactics that I use there were adopted into our classroom environment. So a lot of the workflows can be kind of immediately translated into the work that y'all are doing inside of your media centers. So, yeah, further ado, Shab.
All right. So, About Camp, which stands for Communications and Media Production. It's a weekly news video magazine, and it's around 20 minutes long, but divided up into 3 to 4 minute segments, all of which are produced by groups of about 3 to 4 students each. And we distribute it primarily on YouTube, but we do post teasers and stuff on other platforms, which brings in our social media presence, which is primarily on Instagram right now, but we're looking to expand that for sure. And you can see that the branding graphics-wise has already started before we even really get into the videos. You can see our logo here, as well as the big banner we have up here, some colors, some central colors of white, blue, and gray. So one thing that saves us a lot of time in our production process and makes it possible to output 20 minutes of video every week is that we're not creating these graphics from scratch, right? So graphics from scratch can take hours. So we use graphics repositories, and we find graphics that contribute to the look and feel of our segment, and then we customize them to make them best suit our needs. So the main site we end up using is Enviro Elements, which is
Want to bring it up?
yeah. Yeah, so this is Enviro Elements, and it's a great source of stock video, music, sound effects, but the main thing we like to use it for is video templates and lower thirds and transitions and things like that.
Just a little bit about Enviro Elements. So Enviro is a company that has a kind of offers royalty-free elements in a wide range of things. They have WordPress themes, they have sound effects, video templates, a whole bunch of them. Enviro Elements is actually a subscription-based offering where once you log in, you now have access to these. I believe we pay $160 a year, and it's absolutely worth its weight in gold. If we were to go to actually our downloads and see just the amount of stuff we've done in this month.
This is all, that was all on Monday.
No, this is
That was all yesterday.
This is literally yesterday. So I use it for my classrooms, but
and it gives you access to unlimited downloads of anything on the site.
and this is our preference, but there are definitely other sites out there that serve the same purpose. This is easily kind of manageable for refining certain things. So for instance, we use Premiere Pro. So if we use video templates and we are looking for, say, a Halloween theme, because we're changing our graphics up for our Halloween special, we can go to Halloween, Premiere Pro, and then we have some graphics that we can utilize.
And it says there's 104 options here, so definitely plenty to choose from. So, yeah. Alright, so you have this huge library of graphics. It's all great. There's like 2 million of them you can choose from. So it's become our job as the leadership of the transcript to go through and hand select the ones that we think are going to best suit the broadcast. And once we've had those meetings and discussed what we think is going to be best for the broadcast, we will download them and put them in a central repository that's easy to use for everyone in the class. For us, that ends up being mostly Google Drive. But while we're in the classroom, we do use network attached storage as well. And
yeah, so a network attached storage is we have a local area network in our classroom, and there's a hard drive array where students are just accessing all of those standards. To give you an idea of what that looks like on the back end of our kind of workflow here, we go to our drive, here, we have a standards folder, bigger. And inside of here are different transcript lower thirds, quotes, packages, and transitions. There are a bunch of different things. Now, it's not just that students, and we're going to get into this in a second, these are all fonts, but you need to download these and make sure that they're on your actual computer. Right. So it's it gets a little complicated. That's where the educational component comes in. The other thing that's nice about this is that once you have this central kind of repository, once you install these graphics, if it was installing on this computer, it's a one-time install, and then you have access to these lower thirds. So you don't always have to keep on downloading them and downloading them. So once you kind of understand how to do that, you get them in there, and we have that for that season or semester of the transcripts.
Yeah, so when we're thinking about what kind of lower thirds or otherwise we want to be using, we're thinking about the colors, the fonts, the sizes, different things. So that goes back to the color of our logo, which is primarily blue. So we want to create some kind of graphic match with that, with the graphics. So for our transitions in between different segments, I like to do a combination of blue, gray, and black.
We have a smaller crew, so we have good communication on what our actual standards are. But this right here is a really great example of a larger institution a larger organization that really has nailed their branding kit. So this is what's called a graphic standards guide or a branding kit. This is the YMCA. So these are the YMCA's colors, and this is the table of contents. And it really takes you through where you use certain graphics, how you use them, what colors they're going to be, what your fonts are, and I really recommend, this is an excellent visual way to get everybody on board really easily, especially for those larger centers that kind of may not have the time to get a lot of your rotating producers in. So really excellent way, aside from just having that standards folder, to kind of understand. It gets even to the point where if I zoom in, we have things of do not lock up the Y logo with copy of YC. So it gets, this one goes a little overboard, but you can see that, do not outline, for instance. They want you to have a gradient when you use this. Like I said, you don't need to go that far, but really understanding how to utilize them and having specific times on when you'd like them to be used goes a long way when it comes to kind of communicating your branding and identity for productions.
Alright. Yeah, so it's great to have these standards, but you're going to want to mix it up or else things are going to get boring, right? So for us, that often looks like we'll have different graphics that are associated with different segments, whether it be the intros that they're using or the lower thirds that they're using. And the graphics should contribute in some way to your creative vision of the project that you're working on. They should complement it. So here's a couple of examples of that. Amped Up is the weekly sports kind of segment that we do, where we talk to different sports teams and see what's going on. So you can see there's a baseball field in the background. We got like bright neon colors, and there's no music, but we have like a loud.
The Space Jam theme that they illegally use.
That's right. Yeah.
They can't take out of their grips.
Yeah. So that's what suits Amped Up. But then Cheap Thrills, that's the segment where we go around to different local businesses and check them out, see what they have going on. And that segment kind of has more of a sleeker aesthetic. They'll often play lo-fi music in the background of their segments, and you can see how this graphic kind of complements that.
Now, another thing that we've had as a discussion within our kind of senior leadership in the production, the senior leadership will give kind of guidance on where they want the standards to go, the graphics to go, what kind of elements we want. In some of those earlier conversations, from my standpoint, I said, the consistency of having this graphic over here and then this graphic over here, in my opinion, was a little chaotic because, this goes against what we would typically think about for a graphic design consistency throughout an entire episode of something. But as I was kind of told and what they did, and I actually really appreciated, each one of these individual segments was really representative of the individuals that we're working on. So there are times in which you can break the graphic design guidelines, and I absolutely encourage you to, if it's really projecting the mission of what you're trying to do. This is something that they're really proud of, and this is something that acts as the Amped Up graphic over here was really a legacy of one of the first seasons that we ever produced. So this is 5-6 years ago, and this is something that has been passed down, including that copyright song, but passed down from each generation of the Amped Up.
And now, when people are watching Amped Up, this is what they're expecting to see, right? So this is what's getting them ready to get into that kind of, to get excited about the sports in school.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, so education is super important. This stuff is not super hard when we're talking about downloading customizable graphics, but it's still important to make sure that people know how to do it, or it's just not going to happen, right? So one thing we really love to do at the transcript is we create, well, Jeremy doesn't mostly, right? But we do screencasts
So this is pulling out of the teacher playbook, but Edpuzzle is an interactive video assessment, but it actually comes really in handy when you're trying to break down a lot of complex steps within a production.
Yeah.
So, just for an example, I have a folder of all of the communication and media production from start to finish, how to do everything, including, for instance, installing fonts and graphics. So this is going to be a video that not only plays, but tells you when to stop, and you're actually, what is expected here is you would be watching this, video, and it stops and tells you something important. So this is going to be an action that you need to do. And so what I found is, so keeping it short, 2 to 5 minutes is really the chunked time, and when you're trying to do some of the education tutorials. This one, like I said, is downloading fonts, so there's only a few times in which it actually comes up. But if it's hard to navigate and know what those important milestones are throughout, I found just putting it onto YouTube works for some students, not for others, or works for some producers, not for others. So this is just an added way of ensuring that you get to a position where you have downloaded and installed these.
Right. And kind of to build on that, one thing that we found really works is to first have these videos with the questions to give people kind of a baseline understanding. But then obviously, you need to practice things to get good at them. So we'll have people working on practice projects at the beginning of the semester. And while they're doing that, we'll be going around the room and they'll have questions. And when I say we, I mean me and my other two senior leadership crew over there. Yeah, right. But yeah. Yeah, so that's super important. The videos are great, but they're not going to get the job done on their own in most cases. So it's still important to be engaged with your students.
Another thing on the educational component, one thing that when I had my interns, when I was a project coordinator, or when I had even my students, the biggest thing, the worst, I found myself doing it over and over and over because it's easier to do. Never have your hand on the mouse when the student or the producer can have their hand on the mouse. Yeah. Because that is such a crucial step of having them. It's one of the most frustrating things to say, okay, go to File and Open File. File and File and Open File. But that right there, that actual motor, the motor skills and every single component of that is actually reinforcing the education. Yeah. Whereas if they might as well be watching a video if you have your hand on this.
Is this free, the Edpuzzle?
Edpuzzle has a free, yes, it has a free component. There is, I believe, a limit to the amount of videos. Another kind of thing that has been extremely helpful is, and this is just kind of stepping back for a second, I operate as an actual K through 12 educator. We have a lot of different partnerships that we get really creative with Northampton Open Media, our actual community media center. So for instance, if I were to go get Adobe Master Suite licenses for education, those licenses are like 30, the discount is like $30 a month for each license. The nonprofit one is $25 for a year. So we have a partnership with Northampton Open Media. We get creative. The vendor knows what we're doing, so we're not like skirting any laws here and stuff, and they're understanding. But things like that. So likewise, on Edpuzzle, I have an educational license from my institution. Although I can easily make things that are for students that want to produce at Northampton Open Media. So utilize those relationships in ways that is kind of this. If one gets a better discount or one gets a better resource, utilize that. There's another site that's similar to this called PlayPosit. I do use that one a lot too. There are just differences in features and kind of flexibility. I've gravitated towards Edpuzzle for this.
What was that last one called?
PlayPosit, PlayPosit.com. and that looks like this. It infuriates me because I do a lot of my own screencasting content, and they have really harsh limits on how much you can upload, but you can bring in YouTube videos and then make them interactive. Same with Edpuzzle. So this is, for instance, on the back end, similar thing with just the education of certain aspects. And you can, these are all the videos that I have on this. You can also set it up where you have classes. If you had new kind of interns or new producers coming in, you can not only assign them to a class, but then assign them to certain units in the class. And so if somebody wants to come in and do After Effects or Premiere Pro or Photoshop, you can curate the content that they kind of go and watch, as well as see, and this is just kind of the completion rate and things like that. People are getting it. People are answering it. I do notes here, but some of them are multiple choice. You know, not that you need to do that, but just a really good way to kind of reinforce that that they're not over their head. Oh, watch this video and then you're great at software graphics.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's it for the slides. We wanted to show you some of the ways in which we actually do this. So what we did was we filmed this little video. Let's see.
Rolling. Hi, I'm Jeremy Whalen, and welcome to the Alliance for Community Media Northeast Conference.
So
we welcome you, and we hope you're having a great time.
Have this little video. We could throw this. We could trim it in Instagram, and we could just immediately have it available, or we could take just a couple of minutes to kind of massage some of the graphics out of this and show you kind of how we can work this. So, gonna set up. Who uses let's see, who uses Premiere Pro in here? Excellent, my people. Thank the Lord. Okay, so I'm breaking all of my protocol, but another really important thing is that you can kind of see the folders here. Every piece of media is inside of a folder with certain protocols. We do year, then month with 0 as a placeholder, day. If you ask any of my students, they know that I'm kind of breathing down their necks to make sure that when you have a bunch of people and you need to organize all your media assets, the last thing that you want to see is media offline.
Yeah.
And so having everything super organized is the very first step to any kind of production, including when we do graphics. No. And our protocol is we have certain folders. Everybody's different, but ours is audio, video, media, project files, and finished videos. So whenever there's, and this is great for like Shiloh, for instance, if there's a problem, he knows exactly where to look for that project folder. We use our network staff storage, so he can go into that folder and just bring that right up. So this into video. There. We usually do the name of the person that's working on it, or the editor. So bring this into project files. We have a vertical. We utilize the vertical video, so this would be more in tune with the TikTok. So our sequence needs to reflect that. And we might have to do custom sequence.
Yes.
Which would be, I think it would be 1080 by
Yeah.
and I think a shot.
Yes.
Okay. So, I'll kind of guide us as we go, and Shiloh, you want to import that that video.
Yeah.
And so we have that imported the video. One of the things that's also really great about it's really easy to do and can get you immediately out of the kind of custom or into graphics is installing fonts. Anybody install their own custom fonts? Awesome. Okay. So dafonts.com, it's like one of my favorite sites. Just immediately you can figure out what your vibe is and do these things. Also, when you're downloading things from Enviro Elements, some of these are required. You have to go out and find those fonts. So, so bring that in and then just kind of cut out that that first part. Yeah, you're resized. But we're going to go to, in that case, a lot of people are familiar with fonts. Actually, it takes about. We'll do it just to show you how easy it is. So let's go to dafont.com. And we're going to look for something that's, we're at a tech conference, so we're going to do a sans serif font. So, basic sans serif font, something nice and clear. And let's do, I think I already have it.
I'm feeling
Let's-
fun.
Yeah, do it. So this is how easy it is to just start branching out into graphics. So we have our, we went to Lemon Milk, we hit the download, it comes out as a zip press file, we unload it, we undo that zip, and we get this. Now here is another thing that I make sure that people do. Say that you like that font, you liked that segment, you did everything. Right now, this is in our downloads folder. So I'm going to take that folder of that font and I'm going to put that into project files folder, or I'm going to put that into media, because there is going to be a time where you may go, oh man, that was a great font, and we just had it inside of our downloads, and now you don't know what the hell the font is. So we take that, and it doesn't matter when we install the font where it is installed from, but we're going to put that, we're going to copy that and paste that into our graphics. So that's on the desktop, it's there,
And media.
and so when it's in there, you can double click on Lemon Milk, and then it's all of the OTF or TTF files. So the PNGs are just the pictures just showing, displaying what those are. But take the, if you click click the bottom one, then hold shift, click the top one. Just click, hold shift, and click the top one.
Oh yeah.
Yep, and then double click. And so it's going to open up all of them. You can install font. Now, one of the things that happens on the Mac is that there's sometimes people bypass it. Why didn't that font install? Because there's a warning that comes up and it says there's an error here. Install it anyways. You have to click that box. But we got out of it, no problem.
And you've got all your different kinds. You've got italic, light, italic.
Yep.
Yep.
So now that we have that, let's go to Enviro Elements and let's see if we can download a broadcast.
Just one
Yeah.
thing about that. I think this is like your personal computer, but on if you're using people are using the different
Network
users or whatever.
Yep. Oh,
I
yeah.
think you have to install the fonts on every user.
Yep,
right?
absolutely. So yeah, so another important reason why we put all of these in is that when we use our network attached storage, those fonts aren't going to translate to all of those computers. Adobe's getting really good at kind of understanding where all these kind of workflow problems arise, and there is you're able to install certain fonts inside of Creative Cloud, but it's not always the case. So this is just kind of surefire way that you can make sure that you have everything. So we're on Enviro Elements. We'll go let's go to video templates. Yep, you're just there. Premiere. Yep, Premiere Pro. And let's go broadcast package. Let's just put that into search.
What was Enviro again? Like 158 years?
Yeah,
Unlimited.
what I usually do is I get it on Black Friday, and it's like 120 bucks. It's
Yeah.
like, and then I renew it yearly, and so it's just like, and like I said, I mean, I'm surprised they haven't really. I'm a little liberal with the usage of it, but knock on wood, we haven't gotten in trouble for it. So we have some Premiere Pro things here. Let's go to this broadcast shapes essentials. So what you can do is you can kind of preview what some of them look like. They usually come in different shapes and sizes, so you can say, oh, that one looks cool. Maybe I don't want they kind of give you a reference to where it would be. And again, application supported Premiere Pro, so you know that it's going to be good to go with Premiere Pro.
Drag and drop.
And so exactly. So
it's also nice to check this required plugins section. Make sure that it says not required. That's really
we run into that. We also run into sometimes it will, if you resize a font, it will kind of glitch out. So if one's not working to your advantage, I just kind of burn it, just go on to the next. It's just, you don't want to spend too much time customizing them because you might just spend 2 or 3 hours trying to get something perfect when you can just get something very similar. So we download that. And this is just telling us what projects this is the transcript, so we're going to download that. Comes out typically as a zip. We can unzip that. And then again, we're going to move this into either project files or the media folder, however you do your asset management. So that should be in your downloads now.
I think it's taking a while.
Oh, it's downloading?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay, cool. So as we get that going, we can go back to our video, and you can notice right here under Essential Graphics, this is the tab in which we're going to import the graphics. They are typically done. These are all of our graphics that are used for the transcript. You can see that there's a lot of different ones within this broadcast package. They are typically MOGRT files, I believe. So those MOGRT files can be, once we get them in the correct location, we're going to drag them in here, and then they're going to live here. If we're doing it on the computer. Like, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Paul.
Paul? Like Paul said, if you're using it in attached storage, you got to move it over, you got to make sure. But once you get it on there, you're good to go. So what we do at in my lab, I have 30 computers. What we generally do is at the beginning of the semester, we'll just go around, and I got 30 kids. Every single student will just make sure that everything is on those computers, and then we don't have any.
Because you don't want to be leaving your standardized stuff to the last minute. Nobody wants last few minutes of class on Thursday, kids downloading fonts.
Yeah. Although it does definitely happen.
It happens.
So let's see if that's done.
Yeah.
So it's just finishing up. Anybody have any questions thus far, or any situations that they've been in that they kind of were interested in finding a solution for? We're showing you this. We're going to show you an even easier part with Canva. Who's familiar with Canva? Okay, so this is my group. You can probably stop now and I'll go home. So
all right. So this says a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So so this is all of the folders.
Yeah.
So go up to the main folder. So this is the main folder that we see for this broadcast shapes package. What we also see is that there is a Premiere Pro project file right here, and so this is most likely we're going to have to enter into this project, export with an alpha channel, meaning a transparent layer, and then create our graphics. So at this point, to be honest, I just jump ship and I go to the next one. Because 100% I can use this, we can do this in an hour, or even probably less.
So they have them on here.
Oh, you got the MO.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Well,
separate.
yeah, that's right. And again, we're just kind of doing this on the fly.
Yeah. Alright, so
If this doesn't work, we'll show you some of the ones that we did. And we'll
should we
just,
try like a promo one?
yeah. Did you move those into the media folder?
Not yet, no.
So yeah.
Just grab this one, copy it, and then bring it into your media folder, or whatever folder you want. You have it in there.
So that's the MOGRT file. That's how you know. The fonts are OTF and TTF. The graphics are MOGRTs.
And then,
There's also there has been in the past. I think they actually fixed it in the latest Premiere Pros. But sometimes you needed to import these one by one, which is
Oh, yeah.
in the net. This way was the way that I kind of ensured that you could bring in more than one at a time.
Yeah.
But see,
Just
So-
drag it into essential graphics.
That's
drag it
right.
into essential graphics. And when you drag it in, you have to make sure that there's like a little line where it's in this window
Yeah.
when you do it.
Also, sometimes depending on which layout option you're in up here at the top of Premiere Pro,
Yeah.
you might need to hit this arrow here and then just select all panels to make sure you have everything. And then essential graphics will be in this drop down menu. Yeah. So you just drag this in, you can see the little green.
Then hover over Premiere Pro so it actually goes into Premiere Pro, and then you can,
Yeah. Drop it in there.
and then usually the name of it is going to be what is actually
No.
transition. I think it's called B something.
ESP,
BSP. Yeah. Alright, perfect.
Okay, so we have the graphic right here, and if we drag it in, there's usually a little time where it's like doing this little thing, uploading. And the other part is that because it's probably 4K, we can't see it right now, so we have to go to effects and adjustments. So
Yeah. Double click on your clip, effect controls.
I think it's more of a positioning thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's great.
Yeah, left. Views.
Yeah.
Here. Very quick. Set to 4 seconds.
Right,
Look at that. Is that even
No.
So, right click. This always goes into play. Set frame size or scale frame size. But but what we'll do is we'll get a different one. This was the sorry. Shoot graphics. Graphics are better than one. We'll just-
Yeah.
So for the sake of time, we'll bring in one of the one or something there. Just because you can't find where it is.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, it's there somewhere.
Sometimes they don't work.
Yeah, it's there somewhere. So this is just another graphic, one of the graphics
And
we
yeah, this is the one we
use.
actually use. Alright.
And
And it's very large.
yeah.
That's
Yep.
right, yeah.
And so now that we can actually see where it is, we can scale it. When you click on the graphic, there is the effects control over here that everybody knows, but the actual editing of the graphic, this is where when you click the graphic, under essential graphics, this is where your properties are going live. So text properties, you can do lemon milk. That was the font that we had.
But
I think we went too far now. We might be able to search for it too.
there.
Yeah.
It's gonna do a nice bold.
So now we got lemon milk as our graphic. We have sliders that will, it says slider 0 right now, or 100. I think that these sliders are going to control the size of the text, I believe. But these are the kind of like games that you gotta play and figure out what the settings are. But if we have this, comes up, and we can change box to ACM. NE. Yep. Now, one thing that I've discovered with lower thirds or with these, for instance, so if you let it play out, it just kind of disappears. And so that's the second title.
Yeah.
So just for title right here for conference. And also, this is sometimes where you can let it know for your text. This is where if a word's too long, sometimes your graphics won't work. You gotta change
like that.
That can get really annoying.
Yeah.
But so that's happening to us right now. You might have to do a slider and let go for it to take. So this is one of those times where so in this we could just put instead of conference, just put con.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of time. But this is where you have to do some finagling. Now, when it plays this out, it then just it just drops off. So what we do with our lower thirds is we'll copy it, we'll paste it, and then we'll just reverse speed. And so it comes in, and the same way it came in, it goes out. And it's a better kind of transition for your graphics.
Right.
So yeah, so put that over there, and then the speed duration. And then reverse speed.
Alright.
And then
Now,
Mercury playback engine will probably make it all skippy.
Oh, wait.
But yeah, it's back up. Yep. So right there, even with the kind of presentation and the glitches and everything, you can see that you could probably get something like this done in 20 to 30 minutes. But you can even do something even easier if it's more immediate, and that's the use of Canva. And so Canva is going to be a really good resource for doing some branding. One of the things that is underrated about Canva, so not only can you create your media on here and just do it really fast, but you can also create. I have the educator license. It was actually given free during COVID. I don't know if they're giving it free anymore, but I'll definitely check to see if it is. But in that case, you can actually create classes, and you can create different areas of branding and templates for certain people and groups. So, for instance, I have photo communications class. I have templates that they can use. This was some senior stuff, and so what I do the yearbook as well. So what I have is we had the media for this. We created this template. I shared it with certain students, and then this became something where I just had like 4 or 5 students, and all they did was replace this picture. Mm-hmm. And I shared it with them, and it actually comes out really nice in go to yearbook materials, these senior before and afters, and these then get see Charlotte has this one. Get shallow, got all of the senior materials in, and then we have this little video that we'll do like 4 or 5 of these in a post, and then it becomes something that we can always have as just front-loaded social media stuff. So it takes Canva to the second level of kind of management, aside from just your one-off graphics. The other thing that's really great about Canva too is that it does have your branding kit, and so you can create within. So you can upload. Actually, that's the first time I've seen upload fonts. It's awesome. But you can create branding logos. It used to be the devil's advocate. But you can create your colors, make sure everything is there, and then hand off that kit to your students or your producers as well. We had another person that was supposed to be presenting, but they unfortunately couldn't make it. Is there anything that people want to go over? Any questions that you have? Any kind of workflow problems that you're trying to solve, or?
I have a question. So let's say you go from Premiere Pro to like a different editing software you use. Is it hard to transition to like becoming kind of using it as if like without even thinking twice? Is it easy to find like where you might, I don't know, do one thing in Premiere Pro? Is it easy to find where you do that same function in a different editing software? Are they all kind of
So I'm going to open this up to everyone. I go back to Final Cut Pro. I've done Avid too. What does everybody else think?
I use DaVinci Resolve a lot, so I'll go back and forth between Premiere and DaVinci, like personal work, and a lot of times when I'm working in my studio and I have community volunteers coming in, or just community members in general, and they can't pay for a Premiere Pro license, the free copy of DaVinci is just amazing. So I do a lot of just free, a lot of teaching in DaVinci Resolve. It's transferable. Every program is going to have its quirks, and you're going to find those quirks throughout all of it, but they all have strengths and benefits to them. DaVinci's great. I swear by it.
Yep, super impressive what you can do with DaVinci Resolve. The other thing that I tell my students and kind of producers is that non-linear editing is kind of a concept, and once you grasp that, the difference between them all is where the shortcuts are and where the features are. Yeah. To the extent where I used to have students that would come in and transition over to Premiere Pro, and you can actually go into the software and inside of preferences change your keyboard shortcuts. And so if there's certain ways that you have your workflow, you can actually change the layout and things of that nature.
I still edit with Final Cut.
Yeah.
Even though I did Adobe,
I did it for years.
So I kind of couldn't stay with things.
Yeah. I even had a student that would drove other students crazy because they were a computer user, a PC user, and they set Control C instead of the Command C, and the kids would help. And you never bring it back. So you can kind of tailor it to fit your needs and workflows. That's what's really cool about Premiere Pro too, is that now you have these really easily accessible windows.
And the learning panel as well is really great.
I find myself almost 95% inside of all panels, just because it's just a utility, such a great utility. The other thing for just individuals that are trying to onboard people, new producers coming in, the learning component that is built into Premiere in the Adobe products is absolutely great. It's interactive, so it's going to tell you, it opens up a brand new project, and it will tell you kind of step by step to go through certain things. So import media, it tells you where to go, and all of those things that I was showing on Edpuzzle, it actually is an interactive step-by-step tutorial. By no means is it, I would just say, oh, here you go, now you know how to edit, but it's a great stepping stone to then starting the process.
So with the MLGRT?
Yeah, MLGRT, yeah.
At my station we call them nerds. With those, so when you bring them from the essential graphics and onto your timeline, it resets each time you do that, right? So there's like a template that it has that resets. Is there, like, if you use, if like maybe there's like a specific anchor or someone, or like, a talent or whoever, and they're always using like the same name on maybe want to, maybe you really like that template, you want to keep using the same name. What do you have any workflow for kind of keeping that same template? Like obviously you just copy and paste it into the project.
Yeah.
Is there any like more streamlined way?
I often use the copy and paste into a new project technique. I find that to be pretty good, but I don't know.
I'm trying to find it because there is a way to. Okay, so I have this graphic, and if I go to graphics, where is it? There, I believe there is a way to save what you would have as that graphic. So you're saying like you have like I don't know Lisa Thompson as a person, and you just want to continue doing that.
Right.
The other thing that you could do is have the actual the actual graphic, and then I believe if you export with an alpha channel, you'll have that as a transparent.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we've done that on several occasions where it's like check out NHS Technology, youtube.com/NHS Technology for more information. Blah, blah, blah.
And then
yeah.
if you have several names, you could compile them all into one folder, and then you can even import like whole folders onto Premiere Pro.
Okay.
So you can just have them all ready to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Cool. Any other questions?
Hey, what was the effect you used for the disappearing of that?
So that was so that gets into After Effects, and that's going to be Ashes. I don't even know what he used, but I can probably find something that is going to be around what he used.
I think that gets into masking and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so there's definitely some masking that was the other thing that I really like this for, so this is just like I have a client that I do videos for in annual videos for in California. So every year they have a theme, right? And so this year's theme is like spring in nature. So every year I have instead of looking at like Premiere Pro graphics, these are just straight out the gates intros that I can use for the intro slate, and they're absolutely wonderful. I mean, the amount of time that it would take to actually create this is like days and days and days, and you can just go in, put your asset, usually is an asset folder that has some sort of PNG in the logo. You just replace that. You don't even have to edit the After Effects, and you're ready to rock.
I use Digital Juice.
Yep, Digital Juice.
But I'm always looking for other things, so.
Yeah, the other cool thing, let me see if I can find it. So we've actually taken this idea, and because we have this repository, I have a video communications class. We actually have a SoundCloud that the music department made that is just songs of our own repository. So the students are making their tracks, and rather than take an acoustic MP3 off of Enviro Elements, now we're prioritizing looking through our own repositories and utilizing those. So if you can actually have a little bit of synthesis between all of the cool things that you're doing, definitely an awesome way to kind of display just multimodal media in get some shout outs to students. Yeah. Cool. Anything else?
Great.
Awesome. Thank you all. This is my email. And Shally, you want to put your email in?
Yeah.
He has the really, really janky one. So Jay Whalen at Northampton-K12.us. Shiloh Hamilton at stu.northampton-k12.us. And yeah, the other, so that first thing that we showed you with like the really intense graphics, sometimes you'll find a tutorial on how to do that in After Effects. Inside of the description of a YouTube video, for instance, it will have those exercise files or whatever. And the other part of it is, for those advanced things, there's actually production aspects that you have to consider. So he shot the thing with the student fell, you stayed on that shot to continue with the masking and things like that. Cool. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
A lot of pictures. Some of them were underexposed or overexposed.
Some of them were weird color.
Great to see that you presented all of this wonderful stuff that you do.
A lot of them were good. We seriously took like thousands of them.
I heard.
So, yeah, hey, good job, Gary.
Yeah, let's go.
ACMNE. Over.
You gotta find Alan.
Nice job, kids.
Thank you, Paul. It was nice meeting you.
You as well. I saw your bios on the thing. Killer.
Paul, where are you from?
I worked at Hillary.
Oh, cool.
So,
Nice.
are we ever going to learn like different software, like the ones like spreadsheet or anything else? Or
You can always use spreadsheets. I mean, DaVinci and PowerPoint is the same thing, but it has a lot of more produce some really great color correction.
Think about DaVinci, that's hard. Hard. DaVinci's very good
Yeah.
if you want to do stuff. But when you're doing effects on home, it's a completely different system. So unless you want to really go in there because you like connecting things together, it's a completely different way to edit. But if you really just want to cut stuff quick, it's not a bad thing, and it's free.
Yeah.
You know, it's a free program.
Free is always better.
Adobe isn't cheap.
Yeah.
You know.
Wait, what's it called? Was Black Widow really made on DaVinci?
I believe
That
so.
was like one of
Yeah,
their
really?
things.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's so many effects.
they're
Black
so Blackmagic is the one that makes the software, and Blackmagic is really nice. It's a nice camera.
So they have the cameras, so they incorporate the cameras.
Don't they make like the little DSLR size like something camera?
Yeah.
They do lots of, if you remember the red cameras, like,
Yeah.
when I came out, it changed a lot of things.
Jeremy, we should get red.
You know what?
You guys did a great job.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
For the rest of the year.
Yeah, thank you. Take care, Paul.
Where you guys go to school?
North Texas High School.
So
After
they're
that.
juniors. I got that for a
You're
year.
going to Brandeis.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
And I forgot to go to college. I almost played baseball.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Alright, see you around there.
I thought I'd go to Hawaii instead.
That's a little. Yeah, that's